My name's Emma. This whole mess kicked off when I was about 10. It was just another day until it wasn't. My dad came home with this look on his face, holding onto an envelope like it was gonna bite him. I didn't know it then, but that envelope was about to blow up our lives. "Everyone, sit down. We need to talk," Dad said, voice all serious, like when he's about to lay down the law. Mom looked worried, glancing at the envelope, then at me and Lucy, who was messing around with her toys on the floor, clueless. "What's going on, Mike?" Mom's voice had this edge, like she was trying to keep cool, but was freaking out inside. Dad didn't beat around the bush. "Took a DNA test," he said, tossing the envelope on the kitchen table. It slid across and stopped right in front of Mom. "Turns out, I'm not Emma or Lucy's biological dad." Mom went all pale, then red, then pale again. That's impossible. There's got to be a mistake." But Dad, he was calm, too calm. "No mistake, Jen. Checked it twice. So, why don't you tell me what the hell is going on?" That's when the dam broke. Mom started off with a whole lot of denying, then the tears came. I was young, confused. "Mike, I swear, I didn't know about Emma, and with Lucy, I thought." "You thought what, Jen? That you'd play house with me while keeping secrets like these?" Dad's voice was like ice. I had never seen him this mad. Lucy was still on the floor, but even she could sense something was off, looking up with her big eyes trying to figure out why all the adults were acting strange. "I was gonna tell you, I swear, but then we were a family, and I just couldn't ruin that," Mom sobbed, her hands covering her face. "A family built on lies, Jen." "And what about them?" Dad pointed at me and Lucy. "Did you think about how this would mess them up?" I sat there, trying to wrap my head around it. Dad wasn't my dad? Then who was? And why did Mom lie? It felt like I was in one of those TV dramas Mom liked to watch, except it wasn't on TV. It was happening to us, to me. The argument went on for what felt like hours. Dad said he'd divorce Mom, but made it clear he'd still support us. "I raised them, they're my girls," he said, firm like he was daring Mom to argue with him on that. Mom was a mess, kept saying sorry to Dad, to me, even to Lucy, who didn't get half of it. But sorry didn't stitch things back together. It was like a big, ugly crack had opened up in our family, and no amount of sorry could fix that. After Dad packed up and moved to a different city, it didn't take long for Mom to marry Mark, Lucy's real dad. In no time, Mark made it official, adopting Lucy and treating her like she was his only kid. My mom? She was head over heels for the guy and Lucy. Me, though? Might as well have been part of the furniture. Clothes shopping was a joke. Lucy got dragged to the mall for the latest styles, coming back with bags of stuff. Me? I got the joy of the clothes that were bought at a second-hand store. One evening, I caught Mom and Mark whispering in the kitchen, all hushed tones and serious faces. "We need to make sure Lucy has everything she needs for her recital," Mark was saying, like Lucy's dance recital was the event of the century. "Of course, honey. And Emma," Mom's voice trailed off, like she remembered I existed just then. "Emma can look after herself. She's older," Mark finished for her, and that was that. Decision made. I leaned against the wall, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. Wasn't even surprised anymore, just numb. Another day, I came home with a flyer for a science camp I wanted to go to. "It's educational," I tried, handing the flyer to Mom, hoping maybe this time would be different. Mom glanced at it, then at Mark. "We'll see, Emma. We have to budget for Lucy's new dance costumes." The message was clear: Lucy's hobbies were investments, mine were expenses. I stopped asking after that. Started making my own way, saving lunch money, doing odd jobs for neighbors. If I wanted something, I had to get it myself, because waiting for them to notice was like waiting for rain in the desert. One night, dinner was quiet, the air thick with all the things we weren't saying. Lucy was chatting about her day, all excited. Mom and Mark were eating it up, laughing and asking questions. I pushed my food around, thinking about the science camp brochure collecting dust on my desk. "I won an award today," I blurted out, not sure why I bothered. "That's nice, dear," Mom said, but her eyes were on Lucy, who had moved on to talking about some girl at school she didn't like. Mark didn't even look up. "Keep up the good work," he muttered, his attention fixed on his phone. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. Right then, I decided I was done trying to get them to see me. I was invisible in my own home, a ghost only they could make feel less than nothing. It was a regular, dreary Thursday. I was trudging home from school, mind buzzing with all sorts of teenage worries, when I saw him. Dad. Leaning against his car, parked just outside the school gates, looking like he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Emma," he called out as I approached, a bit hesitant. It had been months since we last spoke, an awkward birthday call filled with too many silences. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice a mix of surprise and a weird, blooming hope. "I need to talk to you. It's important," he said, his voice grave, eyes scanning my face like he was trying to read my mind. We ended up at a diner, the kind with sticky menus and fluorescent lighting that made everything look a bit off. Dad ordered us both milkshakes, a throwback to when I was little and a milkshake could fix just about any bad day. "Emma, I'd been to the doctor's," he finally said, his voice steady but his hands betraying him with a slight tremor. "Found out something unexpected." I braced myself, expecting the worst. "Are you sick?" The words tumbled out, laced with fear. He shook his head. "No, nothing like that. I found out I can't have kids. Never could." "But why tell me this now?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Because I want you to come live with me, Emma. In the city. I've got a new job, a new place. It's a fresh start for both of us." The offer left me speechless. A part of me yearned to jump at the chance, to escape the invisible chains of my current life. "And Mom? Lucy?" He took a deep breath. "They have their lives, and we can have ours. I've always considered you my daughter, Emma. That hasn't changed. I want to make it official, if you'll let me." The decision felt monumental, like standing at a crossroads with no clear sign pointing the way. But looking into Dad's eyes, seeing the hope mixed with a fear of rejection, my heart made up its mind. "Okay, let's do it," I said, the words feeling right as they left my lips. We spent the rest of the meal talking about logistics, about the city, about the future. It was the first time in a long time I felt genuinely excited about what was coming next. As we left the diner, Dad threw an arm around my shoulders, a gesture so familiar yet so missed. "We're gonna be okay, Emma. You'll see." A couple of days later, Dad told me he'd spoken to Mom and Mark and that it was all set. I'd be moving in with him. The relief in his voice was palpable, but mine was mixed with a twinge of something else, curiosity, maybe, about how they had taken the news. Packing up my room was weird, like I was erasing bits of myself. But the real kicker came when I was loading my suitcase into Dad's car. I overheard something that I wasn't supposed to. "Finally got rid of the extra mouth." Mark's voice carried over, harsh and cold. Mom's response was a soft, tragic chord in this messed up symphony. "Yes, and now we can really be a family." Her smile, the one that used to light up my world, was aimed at Mark, filled with a happiness that had no room for me. That stung more than anything. More than being the leftover kid from Mom's past life, more than being the invisible daughter. To hear it so bluntly, to know that my absence was a relief to them, it hollowed me out. I climbed into Dad's car, suitcase in tow, and didn't look back. I couldn't. If I did, they might see the tears threatening to spill over, might mistake them for regret or second thoughts. But there were no regrets, not about leaving. The only regret was ever thinking I mattered to them as much as they mattered to me. Dad's place was in a bustling part of the city, the complete opposite of where Mom and Mark lived. It was smaller, sure, but it felt more like a home than any place I'd ever been. The first night there, Dad cooked dinner, something simple like spaghetti, but he made a big deal out of it. "Gotta celebrate the first night of our new life," he said, wearing an apron that was way too big for him. I couldn't help but laugh. "You look ridiculous in that." He shot me a grin. "But I make a mean spaghetti, right?" Can't argue with that, it was delicious. We ate on the floor, because the furniture hadn't arrived yet. It was makeshift and a bit messy, but it was ours. That night, we talked more than we had in years. About everything and nothing. About the city, about what I wanted to do now that we were here. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was being heard. "Emma, you know you can make a fresh start here, right?" Dad said, leaning against a stack of moving boxes. "New school, new friends. It's a chance to be whoever you want to be." I nodded, twirling spaghetti on my fork. "I know. It's just weird, you know? Starting over." He understood. "Yeah, but sometimes, starting over is exactly what we need." School was a challenge, not gonna lie. New faces, new teachers, and that constant pressure to fit in. But having Dad in my corner made all the difference. He was there every step of the way, from the first day jitters to the moment I brought home my first A. "Look at that, A in math. Knew you had it in you," he boasted, sticking the test on the fridge like I was still a little kid. "Stop, it's just one test," I mumbled, secretly loving the praise. "Nah, this is fridge-worthy. Plus, you're setting the bar high for the rest of the year." Dad was also big on exploring the city. Every weekend was an adventure. Museums, parks, hole-in-the-wall restaurants you'd miss if you blinked. "Gotta know the city you live in," he'd say. And I did, feeling more like a local and less like an outsider every day. Life with Dad in the city wasn't perfect. We had our ups and downs, our disagreements and misunderstandings. But at the end of the day, we had each other. And that made all the difference. We were building something new, something solid, in the midst of the chaos. And I wouldn't have traded it for the world. Our life has completely changed when Dad's business took off. It was like we hit the jackpot overnight. One day we're eating spaghetti on the floor of our small apartment, and the next, we're moving into a house that's too big for just the two of us. It had more rooms than we knew what to do with, and a backyard that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Dad kept saying it was all because I brought him luck since the day I moved in with him. "You're my lucky charm, Emma," he'd joke, wrapping an arm around my shoulder as we checked out every corner of our new place. I'd roll my eyes, but couldn't hide my grin. "Yeah, sure. I guess you'll have to keep me around then." But amidst all the luxury and new lifestyle, I found something I was truly passionate about: medicine. Maybe it was the science classes at school, or maybe the idea of helping people appealed to me. One evening, as Dad and I were having dinner in our oversized dining room, I decided to bring it up. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do in the future," I started, poking at my food. Dad looked up, interested. "Oh yeah? What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, feeling a bit nervous for some reason. "I'm seriously interested in medicine. I think I want to become a doctor." Dad's reaction was immediate and supportive. "Medicine, huh? That's a tough path, but I've no doubt you can handle it. You've got a good head on your shoulders." I smiled, relieved. "Really? You think so?" "Absolutely," he affirmed with a nod. "If that's what you want, we'll make it happen. You brought so much luck and change into my life, it's only fair I support you in chasing your dreams." Hearing Dad say that, knowing I had his support, made all the difference. It felt like no matter how high I aimed, he believed I could reach it. And with Dad's business doing so well, the resources were there for me to pursue my dreams without worrying too much about the financial side of things. After high school, I dove headfirst into medicine. I was determined, fueled by a mix of passion and maybe, deep down, a bit of fear from what we went through with Dad. Becoming an oncologist wasn't just a career choice, it felt like a calling, a way to fight back against the disease that had taken so much from us. I landed a job at one of the top clinics, surrounded by the latest tech and some of the brightest minds in the field. It was everything I'd worked for, and yet, life had a twisted sense of irony. Just as I started making my mark, cancer barged back into our lives, this time gunning straight for Dad. It was like being sucker punched, seeing him there, vulnerable and sick, the big, strong man who'd been my rock. The roles reversed, I became the caregiver, the one holding his hand through the treatments. "Emma, you're doing amazing things here," Dad would say, trying to smile through the pain after another grueling session. I'd force a smile, keeping my voice steady. Just trying to kick cancer's ass, one day at a time. But despite having access to all the advanced treatments, despite pouring every bit of knowledge and determination into fighting his cancer, it was a battle we were losing. It dragged on, years of ups and downs, hope and despair, until it became clear. Time wasn't on our side. Dad knew it, too. One evening, as we sat quietly, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he broke the silence with a voice softer than I'd ever heard. "Emma, I'm proud of you, you know that? Not because you're a brilliant doctor, but because of who you are. You've got a big heart, kiddo." Tears blurred my vision. "Dad, I wish I could do more." He squeezed my hand, his grip weaker than before, but still filled with love. "You've done more than enough. You've given me time, and that's the most precious thing." When Dad passed, I was 33. He left everything to me, the big house, other properties, antiques, a healthy bank account, and shares in the company. It was a massive inheritance, but all I could think of was how empty the big house felt without him. Sorting through his things, I found notes he'd made, plans for trips we'd never take, and dreams we'd never see come to fruition. It hit me then, the weight of his absence, the finality of it all. The irony of it all wasn't lost on me. The oncologist, unable to save her own father from cancer. But in those years of fighting alongside him, I learned more about life, love, and resilience than any book or lecture could teach. And as I moved forward, I carried those lessons with me, a bittersweet inheritance that was worth more than any property or money. 2 months after Dad's funeral, out of nowhere, my phone buzzes, and it's them, Mom, Mark, and Lucy, my sister, wanting to catch up. Next thing I know, they're standing at my doorstep, eyes wide as they take in the sprawling house Dad left me. The envy was almost tangible, hanging in the air like a thick fog. Lucy was the first to break the silence, her voice tinged with a mix of awe and something bitter. "Wow, you really hit the jackpot, didn't you? Must be nice living in luxury while I'm stuck slinging burgers at the diner." Her words stung, a reminder of the divide between us. "Lucy, it's not like that. Dad, he worked hard for this." "Yeah, well, not all of us were so lucky," she shot back, her gaze roaming the room, taking in the expensive furniture and art. The conversation shifted awkwardly to small talk, but the underlying tension was palpable. Finally, Mom and Mark got to the point. They wanted money for Lucy's college tuition. The whole lump sum, all $150,000 of it, right now. I hesitated, the request setting off alarm bells in my head. "I want to help, Lucy, but that's a lot of money to hand over at once. How about I pay directly to the college? Year by year?" Lucy's face fell, but Mom was quick to jump in, her voice smooth as silk. "Emma, darling, we'd really appreciate it if you could just give it to Lucy directly. She's still figuring out where she wants to go." Alarm bells turned into sirens. But there they were, my family, looking at me with those hopeful, desperate eyes. And damn it, against my better judgment, I caved. "Okay," I finally said, the word tasting like defeat. "I'll transfer $30,000 to Lucy's account for the first year. But I want to see enrollment papers, understand?" They nodded eagerly, promises spilling out left and right. "Of course, Emma. Thank you so much. You won't regret this," Mom said, wrapping me in a hug that felt more like a victory squeeze for her than a gesture of gratitude. I stood there, watching their car disappear down the road, a part of me screaming I'd been played. Another part, though, the part that remembered family dinners and laughter, hoped this would somehow bridge the gap between us. Months passed since I'd handed over that $30,000 to Lucy, each day filled with a mix of hope that I'd done the right thing and a nagging doubt that gnawed at my conscience. It was a strange feeling, waiting for some sign that my sister was actually using the money for college, a sign that never came. One day, I decided to bite the bullet and ask Lucy about her college plans, hoping to put my doubts to rest. I hit her up with a text, trying to sound casual. "Hey Lucy, just wondering how college is going? What are you studying?" Her reply was quick, too quick, and dodged my question entirely. "Oh, it's all good. Super busy, you know how it is. Thanks again for the help, sis." But nothing about her answer sat right with me. It was too vague, too evasive. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I started snooping around her social media. There it was, for the whole world to see. Pictures of Lucy, but not in lecture halls or at study groups. No, she was flaunting new designer clothes, flashy gadgets, and check-ins at fancy restaurants. My heart sank. Not a single photo hinted at a college life. Fueled by a mix of betrayal and concern, I reached out to an old friend from back home, someone who'd know the truth. "Hey Jenna, have you seen Lucy around lately? Is she enjoying college?" Jenna's response was a gut punch. "College? Lucy's been hanging around here, flaunting new stuff every week. Haven't heard anything about college, though." Armed with the truth, I tried reaching out to Lucy, hoping against hope that there was some explanation, some mistake. But Lucy ghosted me. Calls went straight to voicemail, and texts remained unanswered. It was like I suddenly ceased to exist to her. Frustrated and needing answers, I turned to Mom and Mark. But just like Lucy, they shut me out. Calls were ignored, and it felt like every attempt I made to bridge the gap between us only widened it further. Then came the icing on the cake. Lucy blocked me on Facebook. It was a juvenile move, the kind of thing you'd expect from a teenager, not a 26-year-old woman. But there it was, in digital black and white, the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. I was blacklisted, cut off, as if I were the one who did something wrong. Months after being cut off, there was a knock on my door that I never expected: Mom, Mark, and Lucy. It was clear they were back for more than just a family reunion. Before any pleasantries could even be exchanged, Lucy blurted out, "Emma, we're in a bind. We need your help, again." I couldn't help but laugh, the absurdity of the situation hitting me all at once. "Really? After everything, you just show up and expect me to open my wallet?" Mom tried to smooth things over, her voice dripping with an insincerity I could spot from a mile away. "We wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. We're family, after all." I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "What is it this time? Another college tuition? Or have you moved on to bigger scams?" Lucy, defiant but with a hint of desperation in her eyes, said, "I just need another $30,000. For a new start." "A new start?" I echoed, incredulous. "And then what? How many new starts do you need before you realize that money isn't going to fix your problems?" Things escalated quickly. Voices raised, accusations flew, and in the heat of the moment, I told them to get out. "I'm done being the family ATM. You need to sort out your own lives without relying on me. Leave, now, or I'm calling the cops." Mom's reaction was predictable, a mixture of anger and disappointment. "You're heartless, Emma. After everything we've been through as a family." I shook my head, a mixture of anger and sadness washing over me. "No, what's heartless is what you've done. Coming here only when you want something. I'm done." Mark tried to argue, but I cut him off. "Save it. I'm not falling for it again. It's time you all learned to stand on your own 2 feet. Lucy's face was a mask of anger, the finality of my words sinking in. "You'll regret this, Emma. We're your only family." But as I looked at them, standing on my doorstep, I realized something crucial. Family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about respect, support, and love, none of which they had shown me. You made your choice a long time ago, I said, my voice steady. And now, I'm making mine. Goodbye. I closed the door on their stunned faces, the finality of the act symbolizing the end of our tumultuous relationship. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I turned away, not with a sense of victory, but with a sobering realization of the journey ahead.